Welcome back to the 12 Talk podcast, the UK Seahawks official podcast. My name's Josh, and look at that. First time this here is Mitch. Draft season's finished. What do we do now? Do you know what
take a break? Just take a break.
No, you never get a break in podcasting. Do you know what we're going to do, Mitch? We're going to talk about it. That's right. Let's summarize it for everyone. If anyone's joining, thank you so much. If it's first time joining and watching us, you can pop anything in the comments. We'll try and get through to them. But today, we're going to have a look at our draft class. We're going to look at the UDFAs. We are going to look at who is going to make an instant impact. Also, who may be a surprise impact player. We're also going to then look at some mock drafts that we did during our Draft Crushes episodes. So if you've not checked those out, please do. And we'll follow that up with mine and Mitch's draft grades. Are you ready, Mitch?
Let's
do this. Just noticed, when you redesign something, I've just noticed one woman gets her back in that video twice. I'll have to change that. Anyway, welcome in. I can't help it, mate. I've got an eye for detail. It's a good job, really, because we're going to go through all these draft prospects and the 2025 draft class. We had an amazing weekend in our Discord. And it was hosted by yourself. You mustn't have slept because every time I flicked onto Discord, you were on it. How are you feeling, mate?
Honestly, horrible. Just horrible. I spent the entire weekend full of flu or man flu or just a horrible cold. Anyone in our draft party will have seen me repeatedly blowing my nose or sneezing or coughing, or it was brutal. But at least the draft was good. Like it was really good, and the group we had in Discord with us throughout were amazing. I really feel like our content up to the draft was great. The guests we had on were great. The watch party was brilliant. Honestly, I think we did it justice, and luckily John delivered something worth the effort.
Yes, he did. Yeah, I loved our Discord watch party, and then just keeping up with everything throughout. It was brilliant. I think every member of the Discord really got involved. There were some fantastic conversations. We've also nicknamed a certain person from the draft He Who Shall Not Be Named, or Voldemort, because he's had far too much coverage for a 5th round pick. If you're new to this, by all means, you can like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. We really appreciate it. It helps the channel grow. As the official podcast of UK Seahawkers, we want to reach as many UK Seahawkers as possible, and also people further afield, of which in our Discord, Bosh, do you like that segue? In our Discord, we have people from all over the world: Germany, Canada, Gibraltar, the US, England, Wales. I'm lost for who else we've got.
We've got a lot in there.
We have got a lot, and it's growing as well. It's a nice bunch, so it always helps.
Cats, dogs, chickens.
It's still my favorite channel. Still my favorite channel. Although I won't be putting my dog in there from today because he was an absolute. We're a clean pod. I won't swear, but yeah, I think the teen years are hitting. So, as I said earlier, we are the official podcast of the UK Seahawkers. We're really proud of that, and this is something that we will announce every single pod. So buckle up. If you want to become a UK Seahawker, it's £12 for an individual membership for the year, and it's £20 for a family of up to 4 at the same address. If you're outside the UK, your goodies and whatnot can be posted to you for additional £5 per person. You get access to game day field passes, goodies. You get 10% off at the pro shop. You also get things like access to our members only giveaways and our annual meetup, which is in how many days, Mitch? We have 5 sleeps.
5 sleeps, yeah.
Not that sleep means much
needed
anymore,
sleeps, I think, as well.
So here are the goodies we got this year. You get 2 fantastic coasters. You get your wristband, which I wear all the time. It's a good conversation starter with my clients at work. You get your patch, which Mitch is rocking on his latest draft hat. There you go. That one. And your membership card. And for anyone who didn't know Mitch's full name, there you go. You're welcome.
Got my social security number and address on there as well.
National insurance, why not?
Insurance, yeah.
This year's meetup is on Saturday, Admiral Woods in Glasgow. If you are a UK Seahawker who is attending but hasn't paid, please send your £5 via PayPal to ukhawkfans12@hotmail.com. It's going to be an amazing time. There's going to be Seahawks fans from all over the UK. Mitch and I will be there. We'll be interviewing UK Seahawkers. You will get I'll be mashing all those up, putting them on our socials, getting your take on last season, the draft, how you think this season's going to go. Awesome. So we're all looking forward to that. And this is the fine group of some of the UK Seahawkers from last year. Hopefully we'll get some more group photos. I'm just going to skip over that one because I forgot to take the slide out. And as always, we are proud supporters of the Robin Cancer Trust. Here it is up here. And over here is Toby wearing the giant ball bag. Toby has actually just completed the London Marathon dressed in that nutsack. So now he's done the Colchester half marathon, the Brighton half or full marathon, and the London Marathon dressed as a ball bag. His whole aim is to cover 500k, if not more, dressed as a ball bag to save lives. They are looking to try and generate £240,000 to help save with life-saving cancer, or testicular and ovarian cancer, research, just visibility, everything, getting people out there. And Toby, being dressed as this nutsack, is doing that with aplomb. And I'm also going to say a massive well done to my little brother, Harry Stevens, who is another UK 12. I don't know if he's signed up or not. I might have to sort that out. But he completed the London Marathon as well. Very proud. If you've been affected by cancer, whether it be testicular and ovarian cancer, you can search the hashtags Talking Bollocks or Not Overreacting. And you can also check out Toby's pod, which is Thrive Against Cancer. And with that, double clicked. Should we go through the 2025 Seahawks Draft Masterclass?
I can't wait.
I know you can't. The draft, for anyone who's new to this pod, the draft time is Mitch's Christmas. Mitch spends so much time doing our draft content, our analysis, our scouting, and as soon as it comes around, it all comes to fruition. It's like the merging of two fantastic beasts.
Michael Bublé,
right, you ready?
The Michael Bublé of drafting. Just thaw me out. Just wheel me onto the pod when it comes to draft season, then you can put me back in my box until,
that's it. Climb out your cave. Later. Job done. Right. So here we go. So Mitch, give us a little bit about each pick if you can. Pick 18. There was a lot of and ahhing who we were going to go for, but we went for Gray Zabel, the best zone blocking guard, center, tackle in the draft. What have you got for us, Mitch?
Well, we had solid intel that this was the pick if we didn't manage to trade up and get another intriguing prospect. The only real question for us regarding Gray Zabel was if we had the offer of a trade back, would he be, well, one, would we get the trade back? Two, would he be there at the position we traded back to? And I think in the end, we didn't manage to find that trade and we picked Gray Zabel. What we did know was that the Seahawks were extremely comfortable picking this player. And why are we so happy with this pick? Well, it's the biggest positional need on the roster. It's the best scheme fit for what we're transitioning to. He's got character. He's got all the character traits you could ever wish for, and also character traits that are missing off our current staple of offensive linemen. And he's got that positional versatility of being able to specialize at our biggest hole, left guard, and also cover one of the biggest question marks, which is right tackle. And and also can throw himself into the mix to start at any other position on the line, so and could project as a great leader of that line from center position down the line too. So honestly, I'm not surprised they were comfortable making the pick with all that, all those, ticks and checked boxes. What I do love as well is the tenacity and the aggressiveness and the athleticism to get up to the next level and pick a few easy targets, smash a linebacker, smash a safety, it's going to be a great watch. He's such a good fit. And anyone that's listened to the draft phone call, both the one he received and the one he sent out, which we'll touch on later.
Brilliant.
Yeah, his press conference was outstanding. He came through just glowing, absolutely glowing. And you could really tell that all of the people in that press conference asking him questions were just enamored with his character. He just won the room. So yeah, it's an outstanding way for us to have started this draft.
Questionable taste in beers, but he is an athlete, so we'll let him off. Some low-calorie Busch Lights. I just love the fact that he sort of finished with, I'm probably going to dive into these, and he's got the 12-hour rule, where he'll celebrate for 12 hours, and it's straight back to business. That, for me, is A1 stuff. Yeah. And he is plug and play, let's face it.
Yeah. So we predicted this pick, and I think we're both happy with it. Yeah. Very good.
We also traded up in the second.
Yeah.
Let's get this man, Nick Emery. Oh, he was a favourite of the pod throughout all of our Draft Crushes episodes, just leading up to it. I didn't put him in my mock, just a spoiler for later, because I didn't think we'd get him.
As in, you thought that he would be gone before we were picking?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I mean, he's an intriguing prospect, isn't he? The athleticism and the way he tested and the production, especially in his last year in college. I understand your point. I mean, when you're using a first round pick on a player, you need to ask yourself, how high is the ceiling, and what are you getting in year one? And that doesn't necessarily apply to quarterbacks, because if you expect too much out of a quarterback in year one, that's been a recipe for disaster. But with skill positions, if you're genuinely first round grading a player, you want to know how good he can be and what impact can he have in year one. That justifies a first round pick. When you look at Emery, you're right on both points: high ceiling, immediate impact. So I understand your thinking, but we predicted this the day before based on John Schneider's press conference, where he almost let the cat out of the bag that there was someone that Mike Mac really wanted, and we had the opportunity to potentially make a move early day two and go and get that player, and then he corked it and just stopped himself halfway through.
But close.
But what he said and what he didn't say, sorry, kind of pointed to there being a defensive player in this draft that Mike Mac really wanted to add, that we could feasibly get up and get, and all signs pointed Nick Emery at that point.
And they pointed.
What is it with people in the comments about my box? By the way, we spent the last pod we did with people talking about my box.
It's because you sent me the picture of all the goodies, and when I was doing the editing, I could have cut them all out separately and made it look nice, but I liked the aesthetic of the box. So now it's all about Mitch's box.
I do have a very aesthetic box, I will say that.
And Jonas asks, was Emery in Mitch's box?
Not yet, but there's time.
I was going to say, I think we should get off that sort of line of questioning before it goes downhill
rapidly. Pod. Yeah, what are we doing here? We've been derailed.
Right. That's it. And then with our third pick 50, we got Elijah Arroyo, tight end from the U. Miami.
This is
this the death bell for Noah Fant? Does this make Noah Fant one of those post-draft trade targets?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, what you're getting in Arroyo is basically a big wide receiver that can do a bit of everything. He runs routes like a wide receiver. You know, he could be a little sharper out of his breaks, but then we're talking about a tight end here. He doesn't just find soft spots in coverage. He will seek a DB and then beat them with his catch radius and his physicality. And, you know, he's just so good. He will stretch the field from the tight end position, which means we need Marquez Valdez-Scantling less for doing that, which I like. Any opportunity to use Arroyo instead of Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I think just gives you a more dangerous 11 on the field. So I love what this is going to do. And there's a running theme with this draft class, which is we took players whose draft stock had fallen due to an injury, whether it was a recent injury or a historical injury, but had also shown a lot of productivity either around the injury or since the injury. So we capitalized on value and hedged against the injury hindering, you know, future production. So this is a great example of, some people had him as a very early second round prospect. Rob Staten had him as player 17 on his board as well.
I think that this is it. I think when you look at this, and we're not going to be the first people to say it, but every single player we've picked, when you look at their relative athletic score, they score so highly. It's the most athletic draft class this year. I think possibly ever for the Seahawks. It is ridiculous. It is. So as a manager in various industries, I've always held the premise of, I'll take you on your raw talent and I can train you into do whatever. So let's say managing a call center, I'll employ you because you're nice and diligent. You know, you're not a douchebag, because I can't train that. That's inherent, but I can train you in whatever job we're asked to do. And that's exactly what we've done. I think Mike Mac has gone, I have got a coaching staff that can coach. I have got, you know, the utmost belief in the players around them, the senior players, the vets. I'm going to take these high character, massive, like athleticism scores, and I'm going to mold them into what we want. So this is a prime example. Oh, also this next one is a prime example of that. Pick 92, Jalen Milroe. I don't think anyone had this on their draft card. We'll find out who. If
not at that.
Did from ours.
Not at that position in the draft. There was a lot of rumors that the Seahawks were really high on Jalen Milroe. And I feared for a first round or second round selection. Where we got him is ideal, because at the end of the day, if you're going to take a flyer on a quarterback and you've got the capability to sit them for 2 years, which we do, what is a late third round pick for that potential upside? It's an absolute madness that we managed to get him. It was perfect for us. But I also think if you were to list the perfect landing spots for Milroe throughout the league, we were probably a top 6 or 7 landing spot, because there aren't that many teams that have the capability to sit a quarterback like that for 2 years, you know, because of the stability they've got. Darnold will be here for 2 years.
I genuinely, I wasn't sure on draft night, on sort of like day 2. And the more I've thought about it, the more and more I'm in love with this pick. Purely from the, you know, year 1, bring him in some wildcat packages. If we're stagnating with just our standard play, the standard scheme, you bring him in, and then you've got what we have with Russ. Is he going to throw it? Is he going to run it? Is it going to a running back? It just adds an extra dimension. And that, for me, is the most exciting part of it, where it adds different layers to our offense, rather than just Darnold is going to throw it to someone or he's going to hand it off to one of our running backs. Whereas now you've actually got to account for running back's legs as well, which for me is triple threat quarterback perfection.
Imagine we get to the red zone and you've got Ken Walker in the backfield and you've got Jalen Milroe. Well, and Darnold comes off the field. Is Jalen Milroe gonna take that snap and pass it off to Ken Walker? Is he going to keep it and run? Is he going to complete a short, completion for a touchdown? You really don't know, and you have to account for it because he's equally as he'd be equally as good at running that ball in as Ken. So
you go one further because Kubiak likes to use 2 running backs. You have Ken, who's an outside threat. You've got Charbonnet, who can run it up the A or B gap, or Martinez, as we'll get onto in a bit, or you've got Milroe, plus whatever tight ends or wide receivers we've got in there as well. That is enough to baffle the best defensive minds. So I'm really on board with this pick now. And then we had to wait. Pick 142, Riley Mills, defensive end. I've got a stat. I think it's right. Was it 17 sacks in the 2024 season?
Fact checking
for the Fighting Irish. Don't mug me off now.
I can nod and agree regardless. We'll let it slide.
Oh.
I think it career. So I've got his stats in front of me, and I did want to bring these up anyway. So I'm going to go with it. I'm sorry, mate. So it's 17 sacks in total over 5 years, right? Which is vastly different to what you said. So apologies. However,
let's get back in my box.
His first year, he wasn't a starter on the D line. Played 9 games with half a sack. Right, so not worth really writing home about, but he was freshman, and he was a rotational piece, but he featured in 9 games. After that first year, he played every single game for Notre Dame. So the coaching staff there saw something in him as a starter, despite the low production as a rotational piece as a freshman. Played every single game after that. So he went from a half a sack to 3 to 3.5 to 2.5 to 7.5 in his final year. TFLs, he had more TFLs.
7, not 17.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, 7.5.
Although Ben did correct me. There you go.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So one thing I always look out for with edge defenders is I look for more tackles for loss than sacks. And what that typically tells me is this isn't a guy who's winning necessarily with athleticism alone, not a guy that's, blinkered and just charging at quarterbacks, creating pressure and losing contain. This is a guy who's switched on and can disengage, the initial plan in order to snuff out whatever is going on. He's switched on to the play and doesn't lose his contain. So he's renowned for being a really good edge defender. But he can play with his hand in the dirt. He can play stood up. He can play 5-tech, play 3-tech. You can use him as a traditional edge rusher. So there's huge versatility. We needed bodies on the D line. We also needed a 5th edge rusher. So we've ticked 2 boxes with that selection. The fact that he was listed as a defensive tackle, despite being an edge rusher, shows that he can do quite a lot. So I really like the pick. I knew nothing of him before this. Multiplicity, yeah. I knew nothing about him before the draft, and I was scratching my head when we selected him, honestly, because there were names there that I knew. So I felt like we'd thrown a pick, but the more I looked into it, the happier I was with the pick. The only real downside is he injured his knee in the bowl game, so right at the end of the season. So it's a January serious injury. So this will be a player we probably won't see till the back end of the year, probably post-bye week, depending on when we get our bye. But if he plays at all, they may just sit him for the year. But he fits what we've done well over the last 2 or 3 years, which is keep contain, hold the edge, and get the pressure. He'll be able to do that as well.
And if he's got to sit behind the likes of Leonard Williams, DeMarcus Lawrence, and learn for a season.
Jaron Reed too. I think Jaron Reed's the guy really to be learning from, because he projects as a really good sort of 3-tech, 5-tech that can mix it on the line as well. So I think Jaron Reed's a great sort of example for him.
Next up, pick 166, Torrey Horton, wide receiver from Colorado State. Go on, sing your praises.
Mitch's boy, Torrey Horton. Let's have that right. It starts here.
Sorry. So
Yeah,
Mitch did call out Torrey Horton on one of our previous Draft Rush pods. We're yet to go back and figure out which one it is. So if anyone's watching and you can remember which one it is, let us know. But
it was season review. It was as far back. It was as far back as January, and then it was again on a Draft Crush pod that I brought up Torrey Horton, and I love him. And I'll tell you some bits about Torrey Horton. So people who watched him at the combine will have seen a 4.42 40-yard dash. And that was a disappointing time for a guy that was renowned for being physically imposing at 6'3 3/4. I think he's almost 6'4", and was lightning quick and plays quick. The problem is that he had it was an LCL injury last year. He got fit for the combine and wasn't quite up to his usual speed. However, previously he'd recorded a 4.35, which is right about that. When you watch him play, that's what he looks like. He looks like a 4.35. So I would say by the time we get through training camp and things, he'll be back up to playing speed, and we'll see a true outside threat that is a mismatch for DBs and is an absolute burner. And that, if I'm not mistaken, is what we need to be replacing on our roster offensively.
You're very right. And so him and Marquez Valdez-Scantling just changing it up there. I love it. I think this was one of the things that we all said we needed, a bit of a burner in this draft, and we got one. Then pick 175, Robbie Oates.
Fullback. Yeah, we're all sick of hearing juice in this division. It's time for Oates. Yeah, and I'm ready for it.
That's fullback from Bama. So Jalen Milroe gets his fullback or tight end friend to come and join him, and can't be mad at this.
I love it. And one of the things that came up in the press conference was, actually, it came up a lot. It was one of another theme that ran through the whole draft process was GPS this, GPS that. They were far more interested in clocking people's playing speed from GPS than they were with actual physical testing at the combine, which makes sense when you look at Torrey Horton, because his GPS would have clocked him 22, 23, 24 miles per hour at times. They clocked Robbie Oates at 19, but he ran like a 4.88 or a 4.9 40-yard dash. It was slow. So it's a really good example of picking a player off their playing speed, which is far more important than how fast you can run in your pants for 40 yards.
Do you know what else I really liked from his call? Would you prefer to score a touchdown or to block for someone else to score a touchdown? And he instantly says, I want to put the block in, which is a good job if he's going to be a fullback. But also, that is a sign of intent. That's the I'm in it for the team. That is the I want to see my team succeed, and I will do whatever I can to make that happen. And the guy, he's a big old unit as well. I like it. He's just competing with Brady Russell.
Yeah, he is. He is a fierce competitor as well. When you watch any tape, he is feisty, and I love that. I want a warrior back there at fullback, and we got one.
I like it. Then we go back to the O-line. So we start really high, and then we start picking up later on. Pick 192, Bryce Cabledew, guard from Kansas, which is one of Bryce Coots' boys.
Darlings. Yeah,
from the Hawks on rundown. He's called him a few times.
Yeah, and it's a guy we had in on visits as well. I think they were clearly high on him anyway. Bryce is a big fan. He graded quite well, actually, on PFF in a number of areas. He sort of outstripped his draft stock in terms of his grading. I like the pick. I mean, a late round pick to create good competition. It's a decent fit for what we're doing. I don't think it's the best fit, but it's a good fit, and the grading, shows nothing but upside. So I really, really like it. As Bryce says in the comments, he won't be anything other than a guard here, but if there's one spot on this roster that needs competition and fresh blood pumped into it, it is exactly there. So, yeah, I'm happy to see it, and I'm also happy when we've fully investigated players' character, and then we go and get them, because it says to me, like, if you like the film and you like the grading, and the coaches like the character, you're nearly all the way there, right? So
that's it. That's a trifecta.
Yeah, I like it.
And then,
pick
223, Damian Martinez, running back again from Miami. We love a Miami running back.
We do, and we're going to love this one. We're going to love this one. Outrageous production, really, really consistent performer. The knock on Martinez, I think, from scouts, and possibly the reason why he fell, was there hasn't been an awful lot of improvement from Martinez through the years at college. He played an awful lot in his last year at college, like he did in his second year at college, and all the way through it. There's not much there, I think, for scouts to look at and go, the ceiling is probably somewhere up there. The ceiling feels like it's pretty much where he is. I could be completely wrong, and the scouts could be completely wrong, but I think the projection for how good he can be suffers slightly due to the fact that he hasn't pushed on too much. I think his average went up to 6.3 yards a carry from 6.1 or just shy of 5 over the last couple of years. So when we took, for example, when we took Charbonnet, when you look at the yards per carry, it went sort of 5, 6, 7, 8. And you look at that and go, okay, that's a guy who's found a way to improve year on year. You don't see that kind of thing when you look at Martinez. But who's to say that the right scheme for him won't give him that extra room to perform? So we got great value with this. It doesn't matter what the ceiling is when the floor is so high and he's joining a talented running back room. So that's where I stand on Damian Martinez.
I like it. He was a transfer from Oregon State, wasn't he? He was a Beeve.
He was. Yeah, correct.
And then pick 234, Mason Richman, offensive tackle from Iowa.
I love the pick. I love the pick. Yeah, no, I love the pick. So amongst offensive linemen in this class, he had the 7th highest pass block win rate. And when you consider how many O-linemen went off the board, tackles, guards, centers before we took him, if you take a guy who grades on PFF as the 7th highest in pass block win rate, you're not doing badly at 234. Also, last year, I think it was 5 or 6 games in, he was PFF's top graded pass blocker in the league. Now, he dropped off a little bit, but he started the season red hot at tackle. And I think he moved around a little bit, played a couple of different spots, which can probably destabilize anyone. But that coaching staff at Iowa, when it comes to offensive linemen, they are very, very accomplished at polishing up offensive line players. Mason Richman benefited from that enormously. I think what he did last year was really impressive. And I think we plan to keep him at tackle, at least for this year as a backup.
I think Ben's just said he'll be listed. We've listed him as a guard as well.
Yeah, so again, press conferences they said that. Yeah, press conferences I think they said tackle. So, and also if you've not seen the draft call, watch it. It's hilarious. In fact, both offensive linemen, I think. No, actually, no. It was Mason. It was Mason Richman, because this is the one that.
This one was Gray Zabel called, wasn't it?
This was Gray Zabel's phone call, and because there were so many prank calls over the draft weekend, the fact that it was someone saying they were Gray Zabel instead of the recognizable voice of John Schneider did not help one bit. And there was a sort of a 15-second awkwardness of, I can't get excited about this because this is definitely a prank call. So it was absolutely brilliant. But when he realized it actually was Gray Zabel, there was an awful lot of camaraderie there, and it was a cool thing to see. But yeah, really like this pick.
I like it. And then we are on to our last pick in the draft. Pick 238, Ricky White III, wide receiver.
This is our best pick.
UNL. Oh. Go on, tell us why.
This is our best pick. His productivity should have had him go in round 4. This is a round 4 wide receiver that specializes on the perimeter, but could also be utilized by us in the slot very, very easily. His stats for pretty much all of his college career were unbelievable. He fills a need just like Torrey Horton does as a perimeter wide receiver. He could be unbelievable. And I did a podcast, and you've watched it, with Roar of the Lions UK. Yep. And they were seriously annoyed that we got Ricky White III and they didn't. In fact, they'd put out a scouting video about Ricky White III in particular, because they were that high on him. So where we got him, what we're getting, the production, the need on the roster, that is an absolute steal, by the way.
I like it. I'm a fan of this one. What I want to do, I want to get to, before we go on to the undrafted free agents, we've had so many comments come in, and I've starred a few. I can't get to them all, so I'm really sorry. But for anyone who is joining, thank you so much. Do the whole like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. We really appreciate you all joining us, to be honest. And if you want to carry on talking to us and everyone else, the majority of people in the comments, get in the Discord. Mitch will pop a link in the comments. It's free to join. It's a fantastic group of Seahawks fans from all over the world, and we talk Hawks pretty much every single day. Shall we get to some of these comments, Mitch?
Let's do it. Yeah, good. There's been some good ones.
Yeah. So Richard Blake, very pleased with our draft picks. Can't wait to see how it all unfolds over time. Completely agree. Gary Swain, 12 Talk #1 fan. Although very happy with the Seahawks draft, I have to say a lot of other teams also had very good drafts. Next season will be very interesting. Yeah, the Cardinals have drafted very well. The 49ers have just drafted defensive line. You know, Brock Purdy doesn't need weapons. He's good enough as it is. And the Rams have just made it, in my opinion. We've got Amy. Thanks for watching, Amy. I am accept that we have to wait a while to see this all in action. We do. Bryce from the Hawks on Rundown has said high character draft with upside athletes. Exactly what we were saying before. And Gary again, Milrow is very intriguing. If this works out, wow. Dogzilla Monster. Zabel was a solid A. Emenwari, Arroyo, and Milrow may take some time to get more snaps. Agreed. Here we go. So Riley Mills' draft call is fantastic. Aiden is in love with him. And then Gary said, if AD was banging the table for him, I'll happily defer to AD. We do. That draft call was lovely to hear as well. It was like, I knew this was the place, because he was one of the top, was it one of the 30 visits that they asked not to publicize, sort of a secret 10 visit, wasn't it? Yeah. So no publicity, nothing went on social media, and they obviously fell in love with him, which I am all for. Our resident German Seahawker, Jonas Meister. Right, that's a question for us. What do you make of the fact that the Seahawks took 2 defensive and 9 offensive rookies? Say to me that JS and Mike Mac really trust in Kubiak's scheme and want to give him the tools he needs.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Go on.
Because I mentioned to you that I wanted to talk about the 9-2 ratio of offense to defense. I think when you look at the defense going into this year in comparison to last year, it's so similar because we've retained so many. And the way we finished the year was so efficient and effective defensively. I mean, we had the most 3 and outs, or we created the most 3 and outs for our opponents in the league. What we needed to add to that was things like interceptions and turnovers. Well, we got a turnover merchant. That's one of the guys we put in there. We needed an edge rusher and D-line talent. We added that in there. Those are 2 of the 3 things we really needed. Nose tackle's the only one on there. And you could argue corner, but we can touch on that with UDFAs. you could argue that we needed a nose tackle. However, they are a dime a dozen in free agency when cuts start happening. If you just need a space eater to go in there, there could be some good pickups for us. So offensively, we've obviously had high profile losses there. We lost a starting quarterback. We've lost would you call him wide receiver one in Metcalf? I suppose not really, because JSN was that last year. Prior to that, it was pretty much always Lockett and him sharing it.
Yeah.
But high profile offensive losses and a new offensive scheme, and then we get that as a draft class. Doesn't overly surprise me when you factor those two things in.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I just think Mike Mac's got supreme confidence in his coaching team to get the best out of these players. So I think, that's a simple reason. And like Mitch said, the defense was firing, the offense just was not. Yeah. So here we go. UK 12th man. Ben's in there saying, "Oh dear, is Torrey Horton the new AJ Miller?" Yeah, AJ Barnett. Yes, he is. He is the new. Every time now for the rest of the season, when he does something, we have to refer to him as Mitch's boy, Torrey Horton. Yep. He's not smug about it at all.
Nope.
Doug Zillermans has come back in and said, "We look a bit thin at nose tackle. Hopefully we sign someone."
Yeah.
Having jettisoned Cam Young in what I can only assume is an injury designation, because he's not been able to get back on the field. I agree with that, unless this is just the way Mike Mac's looking at his scheme now is, I don't need a true nose. I've got players that I'm going to coach up to do that run stuffing, but also generate pressure and collapse a pocket. That's all I can think. The evolution of the D-line for him doesn't mean that it means that nose tackle isn't a necessity. And if that's the case, I am colour me intrigued.
Well, we've got players that can do it. I mean, if you've got Murphy in there on one drive, and well, not one drive, but one defensive sort of series, and then Leonard Williams can be positioned there rotationally. Jaron Reed can do it. There are bodies on this roster that can go in there and hold up against the run, eat a double team in the middle. We've got players to do that. I would just rather have a specialist on the roster for that role and then rotate around it as well. Okay. We clearly need to pick up someone. Jonathan Hankins was great at coming in and doing that, on a part-time basis last year. So similar kind of pickup would be good.
All right, let's power through these and get to the UDFAs. So Bryce has said, based on this draft, he thinks Bradford days are numbered. He thinks LeMayer might move to right tackle in the new system. Well, we've seen LeMayer working out with Abe Lucas in the off-season. And I don't think Abe Lucas is going to be doing much guard work in his off-season workouts. So that would make complete sense. I think Bradford he's a people mover, but he's not a dynamic people mover. He's not suited for a wide zone scheme at all. If we're playing a gap scheme and he just rely on a big man to be there to move people, fine. But that's not the case. So I completely agree with that, Bryce.
Don't sleep on Jarrell either, because if you want an athletic right tackle to get up to the next level, that's a guy that can do it too.
Mm-hmm. Then we've got Metal Dragon. I think Zabel will start at guard, but ultimately be moved to centre, which leads on to Doug Zillermans saying he's curious if Sundell might start one at centre next to Zabel.
Could see it.
I could see it as well. They're high on Jalen Sundell. And then finally, Jonas has come in here with Martinez. It was tremendous value with the 7th round and is very similar in his playing style to Charbonnet. Does that put Zach rather than K9 on the trade block? Ooh.
Food for thought.
It is food for thought. We'll leave that one there. Let's have a quick run through the UDFAs before we mock our mocks. So currently in the list I've got, we have got a linebacker from UNLV. We've got Jackson Woodard. We've got the D-end linebacker from Illinois, Seth Coleman. The D lineman, TJ Jackson from West Virginia. We've got the outside linebacker, Jalen Gaines from Illinois State. We've got Federico Marenges. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. from Florida Atlantic. We've got Zai Alexander, who I know you want to talk about. Let me get through the list first. Who is the defensive back from LSU. Another D lineman, right, Wycavius Thomas from South Alabama. Hope that's right. I'm sorry if it's not. Not that I'll be watching us, but just in case. We've got tight end. We've got Marshall Lang, tight end from Northwestern. We've got Connor O'Toole, edge from Utah. We've got another defensive back in Isaac Waxter from Villanova. Offensive lineman Amari Knight from UCF. And then we've got Tyrone Broden, wide receiver from Arkansas. Now, there's a couple on there, Mitch, that you wanted to discuss. Go for it.
Yeah, we can touch on Broden actually very quickly, as it's the last name you mentioned. Broden is enormous. Can't catch, but he's enormous. So that's a really interesting one. It smacks a little bit of the Jake Bobo thing with that, but he's quite rapid as well. So I think he's 6'7", runs just shy of a 4.4 or just over a 4.4. So Jared Ivy's just come up in the chat.
I was going to say he wasn't on this list, but I just remembered it, and then I read that and went right. So
So Xylex, thanks for that, Rockman Drums. Yeah, that was a late pickup. I think there was quite a lot of competition for that signature, and I understand why. I mean, 8 sacks the last 2 seasons from memory. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was, and also that was the best pass rush in college football last year, Ole Miss. They had Uman Malin, they had Walter Nolan, so he was not the big name on that line, but he feasted amongst a line full of talent. Well, we also have a D line full of talent. I think he makes this roster genuinely. He is a serious player, and a lot of people had 4th or 5th round grades on him as an edge rusher. And it wasn't a deep edge rushing class. So how the NFL didn't pick him, and we're guilty of that too, although we weren't drafting defensive talent apparently. I don't know how that happened, but that is a serious pickup.
There you go. Just a big edge with violent hands.
Yeah, he's good. He's really good.
Drums again. So there was one more you wanted to discuss, wasn't there?
Zai Alexander from LSU. Yeah. So a lot of people had a really high grade on him as well. I think there's possible concerns over aggression and discipline. A bit like when we drafted Trey Brown, a lot of people said, he's a flag magnet and whatnot. When you watch the tape, he throws himself into everything, gets his greasy mitts on lots of things, lots of pass breakups. It's similar to when you watch Spoon, like you think, oh, well, that's out of reach, but he'll just throw himself in full stretch, get a tip on something. He is all action all the time. A little bit raw, but he played at a high level in college and was a constant nuisance in the pass game. So for me, that is, if we'd have drafted him in the 5th, I'd have been really happy with the pick. To get him as a UDFA is unbelievable. So between him and Ivy, I think we basically had 13 draft picks in this class.
I love genuinely. A UDFA because I think UDFAs come into every scenario with a huge chip on their shoulder, especially if you've got an agent or coaches saying you're 5th round, you're 4th round, you're whatever, and then you just fall out the draft completely. They're the most exciting ones. I love rookie minicamp. Everything that you hear reported from them and who's really showing up. That's my jam. That is. Shall we embarrass ourselves? And this is not embarrassing anyone else. This is just I'm going to preface this with shows how much we know John Schneider, because evidently none of us do, and this is why. So, if you haven't watched it, we had a series of episodes called Draft Crushes. We had some amazing guests. We also had our pre-draft pod where we got some more amazing guests. These were some of the mocks that came out. So Adam from Let's Talk Seahawks, he was moving down to 21 and picking up Emma Mori. Then Siobhan Ravel, who was someone that we were all quite high on. Tate Ratledge, Harold Fallon Jr., Josiah Stewart, Chase Lunt, and Dante Thornton. Now, looking at that, barring cornerback, I think we basically took every other position. So positionally, spot on. Then we've got Bryce, who was high on Kenneth Grant, which I think a lot of people were. Tate Ratledge as well, which we were high on. Jared Wilson, Jack Besh, Benjamin Morrison, who we're going to see twice a year anyway now. Then we've got Olufemi Oladejo, Will Howard. So he had us taking a quarterback there as well. Chase Lunt, again, fan favorite because I think we spoke to him 3 times. Jamari Caldwell, Mitchell Evans, Jalen Conyers, and Carson Bruner. But he didn't put his boy in there, but we know for a fact he was high on him.
Mm-hmm.
Then we had Gary, 12 Talk Pod, #1 fan, went for Kenneth Grant. Jared Wilson, Trey Harris, Dylan Fairchild, Josiah Stewart, CJ West, Kyle McCord, Luke Lachey, Jamari Harris, and Craig Woodson. Do you know the thing that really surprised me in all of these? It's I think everybody saw where our areas of need were, and we tried to address them in different ways. Which as Seahawks fans means we can see the deficiencies in our team. Whether we got the picks right or not, we knew what needed to be covered. So we are on a wavelength with John Schneider and Mike Mac. We just don't get paid millions of dollars to make those decisions. There's a reason they get paid millions. And then Rich,
what occurs to me, sorry, before we move on to Rich's, what occurs to me is that the holes that we were happy to leave tend to be really easy areas to patch up in free agency when rosters get cut down. If you told me going into it, we wouldn't take a corner with an actual draft pick and we wouldn't take a nose tackle, but everything else would be patched up, I'd be happy not taking interior offensive line that deep into the offseason. I'd be happy not looking for wide receiver fits going into that stage of the season. What we left open on this roster to fix tends to be the kind of thing that you see teams trimming down at that stage. It's quite calculated, I think.
Mm-hmm. It makes a change that we didn't just go out and sign these aged vets to fill holes. And again, I'm just going to, from a sports coach point of view, this is where the belief that Mike Mac must have in this coaching team must be next level. Because if he goes, I don't need vets, I need young players that me and my coaching team can mold into what we need, it's very exciting. Rich actually picked Maxi's draft because it was his favorite one he saw. I think Maxi put this in our Discord. So Nick Emanwari, Mason Taylor, Tate Ratledge, Jack Besh, Alfred Collins, Danny Stutzman, which is one of Charlie Wilson's favorites, Zar Frazier, Cam Jackson, Willie Lampkin, and then Bryce Cabledew. There we go. That's the first call for Cabledew. And don't worry, anyone who's watching this, I am going to put mine and Mitch's up there as well. Then Jonas, he went for Siobhan Ravel. He went for Donovan Ezeraku, Jalen Noel, Mason Taylor, Alfred Collins, Chase Lunt, Ty Robinson, Taj Brooks, which I'm gutted we didn't get, Maxon Hook, and then another Bryce Cabledew. There we go. And here we go. So these are the ones from our Draft Crushes episodes. So Dan Viennes, Jalen Walker, who we know that we were trying to trade up for, or we were going to take, but no one would trade with us, and he went just before, didn't he? You've then got Tate Ratledge, Jaden Higgins, Mason Taylor, and there was a lot of favourites. You can see there's a pattern. Will Howard, Ty Robinson, who's someone else that we got in for multiple visits, Jalen Reed, Jackson Slater, Logan Brown, and Nazir Stackhouse, who was one of our favourites as well. Charlie Wilson, Tyler Warren, who's now a Colt, trying to catch passes from Anthony Richardson. Good luck. What was his vert jump like? Can he jump high for all those missed passes? Carson Svessinger, Alfred Collins again, Jake Majors, Cal Kennard, Willie Lampkin, Clay Webb, Tyler Shook, Kyle Williams, and Joshua Gray. And then these are the last two before we get to ours, Mitch. And then I'm waiting for all the abuse to come because everyone's going to be really nice to everyone else in our comments. And then as soon as it comes to us. So Dom Ainley from In the End Zone UK, if you've not checked those out, please do. Dom and the guys do a fantastic pod there. He went Jalen Walker, Jaden Higgins, Tate Ratledge, Jacob Parrish, Kyle Kennard, Malachi Moore, Trevor Etienne, who I know he was very high on, Luke Lachey, Xavier Truss, and then Brandon Crenshaw Dixon. And then the 12 Talkers pod that we did. So this was a collection, sort of the ones that we all decided to go for. Colson Loveland, Trey Amos, Jaden Higgins, Wyatt Milam, Omar Norman Locke, Chase Lunt, Jay Higgins, Jalen Reed, Nazir Stackhouse, and Jordan James. Jordan James go to the 49ers?
I think he did. Do you know what strikes me with all of these mocks? Usually the mocks are a little bit, blue sky and, they're always fantasy. Well, they're all fantasy regardless, but they are. There's players in there that would never have really gone to or whatever. I genuinely think if we put these alongside what we actually drafted, we'd be picking what we actually drafted every time. Weirdly. It's a nice feeling.
Yeah. Like I said, it's just the fact everyone's sort of looked at those holes and they go, this is what we need to fill. I love it.
Yeah.
And then me and you. Gray Zabel, we got one right.
Yeah.
All right, there you go.
Looks like we knew something.
And then we both had Siobhan Ravel. Then you went Jalen Knoll, Darius Alexander, Kyle Kennard, Jackson Slater, Jack Kaiser, who I had as well, Jack Nelson, Jalen Conyers, and Ty Hamilton. I went for Zabel, Ravel, Oladejo, Besh, Robinson, Slater, Kaiser, Dylan Gabriel, who is now having to compete with he who shall not be named at the Browns, Jalen Conyers, and Stackhouse. So there you go. There's a quick review of the mocks that we did, because that whole series of draft crushes I really, really enjoyed doing. So if you've not checked it out, if you're new to the channel, by all means, go back, check those out. Fantastic guests and some great summaries there as well. Now, Mitch, it's the big one. This might be why people have waited this long to hear them. Our draft grades. Overall class draft grade. Now, when I look at this, I factor in multiple things. Need. I factor in heavily sort of like the personnel, the coaching that can be given to them, how they respond to coaching. I think the athletes as well has got to be in there. How well they're going to fit into our organization. But I'm currently just longing this out, Mitch. I'll pass it to you as our resident draft expert first. What was your draft grade on this?
Overall, it's an A. I think day 2 was our best day in this draft. By a long way, the Eminori move, the Milrow value, and Arroyo. I just think it has to be an A. The consensus grade point average across 20. Amy put it in our Discord earlier. From 24 different outlets, had us as the third best draft in the league. We were only 0.05 off the best draft class by consensus of 24 different outlets. So it's an A at worst, at face value. And I think we did one thing that was really consistent with Seahawks drafts across the years, drafting team captains and character. We did that. We did that whilst getting incredible athletes with high upside and got value at a lot of picks. Even our trade up for Eminori graded as an underpayment on the trade charts. So even when we traded up, we got good value. Honestly, we ticked an unbelievable amount of boxes when grading a draft class. So yeah, the value's there, the character's there, the athleticism is there. We ticked a lot of positional needs. It can't be anything other than an A for me.
I don't even need to say anything more because I've given it an A as well. Like you said, the positional needs, the characters, and I know Mike Mac's got a big thing for high character and leadership, which you look at some of the other players that he's got on the roster currently, they've all been ex-team captains, whether it be with a different franchise or through college. And that's what really excites me, having a team of leaders that are going to make hold each other accountable and really pull each one up by their bootstraps, I think is fantastic. It's just exciting, isn't it now?
I'm going to upgrade to an A+, actually. And you know why? I've just remembered something.
Go on.
Torrey Horton's got a habit of taking kick returns to the house, and this year we won't have to have a specialist kick returner on the roster. We've got an electric kick returner on the roster, already. So Torrey Horton gives it a plus for that. I just thought that actually kicks it to a new
Williams. As long as we're not just carrying a specialist kick returner who does nothing, I'm more than happy with that. Yeah. I mean, with that has been our draft review of the Masterclass. Can I just say as well, very, very quickly, welcome in Yannick, who has been in the Discord all week. As I've said, there is one player that we have named He Who Shall Not Be Named, or Voldemort, and he's come in with the sorry, another one came in. If you say round 5 3 times in front of a mirror, he appears, or his dad does. Yeah, I am ecstatic by what's happened, what we've done here. I think it's going to be an exciting season. We did say it was going to be a 3-year rebuild, didn't we? Hang on, I'm not going to do that because that has a lot of connotations with the tangerine skinned. I won't say what I say in the Discord, but if you we say 3-year rebuild, 1 year down, defense is humming. Year 2 is the proper Mike Mac, John Schneider draft class. This is where Mike Mac has said these are the players we want to build our franchise around. And I think on the Roar of the Lions, you said we're on for 11 wins.
That's what I said.
See, I did listen.
Proof that you watched. Yeah,
I appreciate you, mate. Don't worry, it's fine. If anyone wants to check that out, Mitch is on there. I wish I had a timestamp for it, but you can flick through this. They did sort of 3 days with podcasters from different teams, and then you get to see this wonderful man here hold the Seahawks to account, and he did a fantastic job. If you want to see more of us, if you're a UK Seahawker and you're going to Glasgow, you will see us there. We'll be there on Friday night, and then Saturday wandering around Glasgow, seeing what there is to see, and then Saturday night we're with the UK Seahawkers, partying it up, enjoying ourselves, doing some interviews. If you're not going to be there and you still want to see us, by all means, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You can follow us on X, Blue Sky, Instagram. We've got a Facebook group. You can join our Discord. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, all that stuff, basically, because make it available to everyone. And if you want to come on, by all means, just slide into our DMs. We love having 12s on here, and we've had some fantastic guests who have just asked. And that's what we're here for. We're a platform for that. Again, if you want to join the UK Seahawkers, £12 for the year. If you've not paid to go to the meetup in Glasgow, it's £5. That's it. If you're in the area or you can get there quick, why not go for it? I want to say a massive thanks to everyone who's joined us today. It's been a brilliant time. We love having your comments coming in live. We don't do super chats. So if you put a decent enough comment in, it'll get read out anyway. Well, Mitch, would you like to sign us off with anything? Any final thoughts? Mystic Mitch, as you've been dubbed in our Discord.
Yeah, I do want to sign us off with something, and it is regarding the Discord. I just want to say that despite having the man flu for the entire draft weekend, this has been the best draft weekend that I've had. And it was in no small part due to our community all coming together, sticking their cameras on, no matter where they were, smoking a cigar in Arizona or, burning the midnight oil in Germany at 5 a.m. in the morning. You guys made this an unbelievably fun draft. I would have enjoyed it massively, even if we put together a truly rubbish draft class. But luckily, I enjoyed the draft class. I enjoyed all of your company. We had a great time, and I'm really proud of our community coming together and sharing that weekend. So if you're not in our Discord yet, why are you not? Get in there. And if you are in there and you enjoyed the weekend with us, then thank you. And yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Oh, perfect. I love it. Well, as is customary, we'll finish on a Go Hawks. But before we do, we probably won't be doing a pod next week because we will be either in Glasgow or traveling back from Glasgow. And we'll probably do one the following week. So if you do miss us or you just want to talk Hawks with everyone, join the Discord like Mitch said. It is in the comments down here. It's the pin post in RX as well. But that's it from me. That's it from Mitch. I'm just going to finish with a Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.